I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, and science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, astrologer Tali Edut. Together, Tali and her twin sister Ophira are the Astro Twins. They've been the official astrologers for Elle magazine for 15 years, astrological matchmakers on the Amazon Prime show Cosmic Love. They have read charts for stars like Beyonce, Karlie Kloss, and Emma Roberts, and they've written several best-selling books. Their new book is The Astrology Advantage. Use your horoscope for personal and professional success. But today on the show, Tali breaks down food and restaurant vibe preference sign by sign.
Cancer, I want to go somewhere that feels like grandma's kitchen.
And what is it about Cancer that brings up grandma vibes?
Cancer's the mother sign. It's
Okay.
a nurturer, ruled by the moon. Yeah.
Okay. And then we travel to Manhattan's East Village to a popular 40-year-old neighborhood restaurant to find out what makes their Greek salad so special. All that coming up later in the show. But first, my conversation with Tali Edut. Before Tali and her sister were the resident astrologists at Elle magazine, they got their big break writing horoscopes for teen people. By then, Tali was already an old pro in the magazine world. She got the chance to write for a major publication when she was only 17. I loved reading about your early magazine career because it made me so nostalgic for the 90s. I was such a big magazine reader, and I just feel so sad that so many of them are shutting down. So can you talk about, starting from the magazine that you started to your internship, all of that part of your career?
Absolutely. Well, I've always, as a Sagittarius, the sign of publishing, I've always loved putting, images and words together. And I actually won the reader-produced issue contest of Sassy magazine, the legendary Sassy.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Jane Pratt, Christina Kelly, and these legends, Andrea Lynette, Kim France. But one of the things with Sassy was the publisher wanted us to not simply have a Black and Filipino woman on the cover. We had to stick a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl on, so as they shamelessly said, not to alienate the readership in the South. And that made me so angry. And when I got back to the University of Michigan, in my women's studies class, the project I took on was creating Hugh's magazine, Here Us Emerging Sisters, which I wanted to take the format of just a regular women's magazine, and no big deal. The models, here's a swimsuit issue with a 200-pound woman. Here's a story about, just from all perspectives, all voices. So in the 90s, that was kind of radical.
Yeah, no, it's really ahead of your time, ahead of our time, for sure.
Yeah, it makes me happy that over the last, maybe 8 to 10 years, everyone has taken on, inclusivity and intersectional, but it was an intersectional feminist magazine before its time.
It's so cool. And it became so big. It was on newsstands. It got bought by a publisher, right?
It did. It did. When we were 24, New Moon Publishing in Duluth, Minnesota bought it. And Gloria Steinem was on the board with us.
That's amazing.
I know. It was really one of the best things I think I've done.
Yeah. I want to start with a quote that I read that I loved, which is, "We grew up in a home where everybody had a different accent." So talk to me about your childhood.
Oh, what a mishmash, as they would say. So we grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and our father basically came from Israel when my mom was 7 months pregnant. She squeezed on a plane and pregnant with twins.
Is she American?
She's American,
Okay.
first generation, but
Okay.
her parents are were Holocaust survivors. My grandfather was from Germany, my grandmother from Luxembourg. So there was French, there was German, there was Hebrew. For some reason, they didn't teach us and a second language.
I have an Israeli dad too.
Oh, you do?
His parents are Holocaust survivors. He didn't teach me another language either. And he speaks also multiple languages. What is that? I always say there's two kinds of immigrants, the ones that kind of want to shed their culture a little more and then the ones that really want to live in it.
Oh, yeah. What's really interesting is they wound up moving to Detroit, which has one of the largest Arab populations outside of the Middle East. And so we actually went to school, we're besties, we ate the same food, and it was a really cool experience. I actually consider myself really lucky. So, it's like peace in the Middle East, that kind of happened in Michigan, and fighting there never made sense as a result.
So what was food like in your house growing up with Israeli dad, American mom, and then you lived with your grandparents for a while?
Yeah, it was an interesting mix as well. Our mom went to college. She went to the Hebrew University. That's where she met our dad. So we had a lot of hummus. It was all, I'm sure you understand, is your dad all about.
And you said it the way that I always say it. Okay, I'm just going to jump in. My listeners have heard this so many times. How do you feel about, can you even say hummus? I have a hard time.
Oh my God, when people say, I'll bring over some hummus. I'm like, you mean some, fertilizer for the backyard?
Yeah.
It's hummus, people. Hummus. Come on.
So you had hummus at home.
We did. We had, the salad with the tiny chopped up cucumbers and peppers. Yeah. We had eggplant would be burned on the gas stove, red peppers. But then our grandparents, our grandmother, because they were super traditional, she would make more French style food, which I love French food. So we had delicious food growing up. We were very lucky. And since all of them had encountered food insecurity through different wars and diasporas, it was a big deal to sit down for a meal together.
Y'all, I have finally found my hummus soulmate. I think there is a difference between hummus and hummus. Hummus is the mediocre stuff that you buy in a plastic tub at the grocery store. Hummus is the real thing. Ethereally smooth, heady with tahini, finished with generous drizzles of good olive oil, and if you're lucky, swiped up with really good, warm, fluffy, chewy pita. I grew up eating Israeli-style hummus because that is where my family is from, but it has been eaten in Palestine, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, and Cyprus for hundreds and hundreds of years before Israel became a state. It is a very simple dish. Chickpeas blended with tahini, lemon juice, a little garlic, salt, and cold water. But it took me years and years and years and years to make a batch that tasted perfect to my palate. Until a few years ago, I couldn't figure out why it just didn't taste right. And I detail my entire hummus journey in my new cookbook, Open Sesame. Coming soon, it will be out on November 12th. And you can pre-order it now. ABP, always be plugging. Of course, I include a hummus recipe in my book. I actually have 3 hummus recipes in the book. Classic, hot pink, and a beautiful yellow earthy hummus made with golden beets and turmeric. I feel uncomfortable saying this. I don't want to be braggadocious, but my hummus is really good. It's really, really good. And there are 3 secrets to making excellent hummus. Number 1, using a lot of excellent quality tahini. I share my favorite brands in the book. Number 2, ideally using a high-powered blender like a Vitamix to make it super, super creamy and smooth. And number 3, adding ice cold water or even ice cubes if it gets stodgy and needs loosening up. You can find all my recipes and more in my new cookbook, Open Sesame. Find a link to buy it in the show notes. Your mom was a rabbi.
Yeah, she is.
Still is a rabbi.
Yeah, she became one in her 50s. Yeah.
Oh, in her 50s?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because women weren't allowed to be rabbis when she was a girl. She was told that she could be a rabbi's wife, but not a rabbi. I know, disgusting, right?
That's amazing she went back and did it.
She did.
At 50. We have so many things in common. My mom actually, in her 50s, got her b'nai mitzvah because when she was a kid, they never did it. So not a rabbi, but came into her true Judaism.
Wow.
Then. Yeah.
Okay.
So were you kosher at home?
No, thank God.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't let us have pork products, but anytime I could sneak bacon, I was, getting it on the burgers. We grew up in Detroit, so it was let's go to Bob's Big Boy for a, salad bar.
Yes. Time for a quick break. But when we return, Tali shares her last meal, and then we learn how to make it from the owner of her favorite East Village Manhattan restaurant. What would your last meal be?
My last meal would actually be the Greek salad at Cafe Mogador in the East Village of New York City. I absolutely love the way it just takes me back to just my childhood and their hummus their hummus and their warm, fluffy pita bread on the side.
Yum. So tell me more. Has this place been open for a long time? Is it still open?
Oh, yeah. Cafe Mogador is the best kept secret that I just blew. Sorry. No, the word has gotten out about it. It's this amazing Moroccan-owned restaurant in the East Village of New York. And it's been family-owned. The menu has barely changed. I'm really sad they took away their lamb grill, which had the perfect, fatty lamb on it, and they replaced it with a merguez. Not the same. If you're listening, Mogador, please bring back the lamb grill. That would have been my last meal. But they use the za'atar. I mean, they have cute wait staff. People come in who are it attracts artistic, creative people who aren't trying to hog the limelight, but are just there to talk about their art or talk about what they're working on or connect and offload before they go back to writing their novels or recording in the studio. And it's just this amazing energy and enclave there. So
I'm looking at the menu while you're talking.
Yeah, the tagines are amazing.
Yeah, this looks really
Sephardic.
good.
It's Sephardic Jewish combination of Arab Jewish foods, which again, I'm all for that.
Well, you can have anything, whether it exists or not. So do you want to add the lamb to your last meal?
Yes, I would add. Maybe they would just make the special, because I have written multiple books sitting at the 2 top table there.
Yeah.
Sometimes a 3 top if I come, during off hours. I get a little more space to spread out. So I would add the lamb grill, absolutely. So
it says their Greek salad has za'atar croutons. That's cool.
That is the secret there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what else? Describe the salad.
It's pretty simple. It's really fresh. It's a nice romaine lettuce and cherry tomatoes. The za'atar croutons are amazing. And they give you a big piece of feta, but it's just so fresh. I don't know what they do with the dressing there. But it's I've tried to make it at home and I can't replicate it. But I don't know. It's just absolutely delicious.
I'm looking at it. It looks good.
I don't know. It's it feels like a palate cleanser and a meal all in one.
Yeah, you get the fresh crispy of the salad, but then you get this big cheese chunk, and that just feels because I always say if you're going to eat a salad for a meal, I call it a ladies who lunch salad, there's got to be some treat in there. There has to be crispy tortilla strips or big chunks of avocado. You got to have something in there.
I would absolutely not be a salad person. If this is the only one I would order for my last meal. I wouldn't be maybe the Jones on Third Chinese chicken salad. That's another.
Is that another New York salad?
That's actually in LA. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if I die on the West Coast, bring me Jones on Third, Chinese chicken salad. Yeah.
Your dad is Sephardic, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does this kind of mesh with some of the foods that you ate at home growing up, some of the flavors?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We didn't make tagines or anything, but it was just, when I got to New York and, growing up in Michigan, there are a few Jewish communities, mostly Ashkenazi. So it was coming to New York and finding a restaurant that had, was Sephardic and had that.
Yeah.
It was okay, I miss my family less.
For her last meal, Tali wants the Greek salad from Cafe Mogador, a restaurant that opened more than 40 years ago in Manhattan's East Village.
So the restaurant was opened by my mother, Rivka, and my uncle Yossi. My uncle moved here in the 70s, my mom in the 80s.
That's Danny Orlin, second-generation owner and operator of Cafe Mogador.
When they grew up in Morocco, the restaurant Mogador is actually named after their hometown, which is now called Essaouira. It's a port city in Morocco. It used to be called Mogador. They grew up eating at home. A lot of the core menu is based on those family recipes.
How would you describe the style of foods?
Our core menu is Moroccan food and Middle Eastern food.
And I'm just guessing from their names, are you Moroccan Jewish?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Moroccan Jewish. Yeah.
Okay. Jews always be finding Jews.
Yeah,
I picked up what my mom started when I was a kid. I was so annoyed by it. She's always like, are they Jewish? And I'm like, oh God, I do it now.
Yeah. Well, Yossi and Rivka are two names that are easy giveaways for that.
Yeah. So how do you make the Greek salad?
Well, what's funny is it is a delicious salad and it's a super popular dish here. It's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's really simple. I mean, it sounds cliche, but we just focus on quality of ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
The tomatoes in the Greek salad, we switch out on a seasonal basis. You know, tomatoes are not always in season, obviously in the Northeast, but we actually drive out to the North Fork of Long Island and bring back local tomatoes, which are the most delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And we serve those in our Greek salad. We get nice, like the Persian cucumbers, which are a little bit smaller and more flavorful than your kind of average large hothouse cucumber, and tons of fresh herbs. And in terms of the dressing, frankly, it's pretty like standard, straightforward Greek salad dressing. It's just about getting the proportions right, trying over and over until you nail it.
So without giving the proportions, because that would be the secret, what's in the dressing? Is it like a vinaigrette?
Yeah, it's an olive oil and vinegar based dressing.
Okay.
And salt and pepper. Yeah, there are no massive secrets here, frankly.
Well, you left out the two most exciting elements on the salad, which are the big slab of feta and then the za'atar croutons, right? You guys do those? Yeah.
Yes, you're right. The feta is another ingredient that's obviously critical, and there's a lot of crappy feta out there, frankly, that's like a little too chewy, really salty and dense. We get this really nice Bulgarian feta that's a little bit softer and milder and silky, which is really nice. Yeah. And then, za'atar croutons are a nice little twist. Za'atar is always a hit.
Totally.
And we make that in-house. We also, we make, pretty much everything from scratch. So those are going to be nice and crispy and homemade and delicious.
What are some things that you can never take off the menu that people seem to order the most?
That's a tough question because it's really most of the menu. We've been around so long that we have so many staple dishes. The most popular dish actually is not our most unique dish. We have a chicken kebab plate, which is our most popular dish. So I think we'd get the most backlash probably if we took that off. It's delicious. They're like freshly ground and roasted spices, and it's a really nice marinade for the chicken. I think that our most classic dishes, we have our couscous dishes, and then we have our tagines, which are like slow cooked, either chicken or lamb with a choice of 4 different sauces. Those are like really, I think, classic and also a little bit more unique to us. So those are the dishes that I would be most disappointed if came off. None of these are ever coming off.
What are the 4 sauces?
The savory sauces are a charmoula sauce, it's called. It's a spicy green herb sauce. We also have a preserved lemon and olive sauce.
It's so good.
I think that's my favorite. I love that sauce. And then we have a stewed apricot and prune sauce, which is very classic. And we have a sauce that we call a Casablanca sauce, also sweeter chickpeas, raisins, and caramelized onions. Which frankly, all 4 are delicious. And personally, I like the lamb with the sweeter sauces and the chicken with the more savory sauces.
Yeah. When you go to Morocco, you may have to take a break from tagine when you get home, because it was like every day. It's like, today I'm not going to have a tagine. And then Morocco is like, you are.
Well, I'll tell you what, that may be the case, but I eat them every single day.
You do? You do?
Yeah, even if I don't have a whole portion as a meal, I'm constantly tasting the food to make sure that it's good and it's on point.
Danny worked at the restaurant when he was 19 years old, but then he finished college and set out on a different career. But during the pandemic, he and his brother decided to come back and help run the family business.
I grew up here. It was and is kind of the family headquarters. It's where we meet and spend time together. It's where we eat. It's where my parents and uncles and aunts raised us. And I think for the larger community, it really is a meeting grounds for people. We have so many regulars who have been coming here for decades. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think it is. I think it's kind of a little home base within the East Village for so many people.
Including some of the staff. A couple folks have worked at Cafe Mogador since the mid-'80s, a few others since the '90s, and a few more since the early aughts, which seems like a very good sign. Instead of looking at Michelin stars, let's look at celestial stars. Does your astrological sign dictate the kind of restaurants you like or the kind of food you crave? We'll be right back. You said when you're doing your annual horoscope book and you're going through every single sign, you like to get into the energy of each sign by picking like a restaurant that fits the vibe. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, food is a big part of my writing process. So every year, because we're kind of insane, we write a giant book, 600 pages, with a comprehensive forecast for every single zodiac sign.
Whoa.
I know.
That is a lot of work.
It is, but I love it so much. Yeah. And I'll go out and write at a restaurant, at least for a couple days of each sign. So I'll get into the vibe of it. Okay, it's Virgo. You know, maybe there's a place, kind of a woodsy spot, you know, maybe I'll even take a picnic. Or if it's Capricorn, I might go to an upscale roof deck. Okay, so Aries is fast-moving, trendy. I would definitely go somewhere that there's something fun and edgy about the food and great people watching, great energy. Okay. Definitely a city spot. Taurus is a little more eleganza, so maybe a wine bar, wood tables, very earthy.
Okay.
Gemini is the sign of the twins, so I'd invite a friend to go or my sister, probably go get something gelato-y, sweet, you know, and just keep ordering little things, small plates. Cancer, I want to go somewhere that feels like grandma's kitchen or, you know, a patisserie. I love Elliott Bay's coffee shop. It smells like my grandmother's house used to. So that's a good Cancer spot that I'd go to.
And what is it about Cancer that brings up grandma vibes?
Cancer's a mother sign. It's a nurturer, ruled by the moon. Yeah.
Okay.
And then dramatic Leo, that would be a place where I'd want to put on something fun, like a colorful outfit. Virgo could be a sushi spot, something very simple, you know, the wood, the shoji screens, really good, fresh food. Virgo's all natural. Libra would necessitate a little day trip, maybe to a winery. I still have Libra to do, so that would be. For Scorpio, that would also be probably a rainy day. I usually try to save, you know, Scorpio for like the colder weather because you want to be in like a dark cave-like place. Sagittarius, the international sign. That's a great time to, you know, get a Moroccan tagine or, you know, somewhere Spanish paella. Aquarius is edgy, bohemian, maybe a nice hippie bowl of food with people in, you know, hemp pants. Oh, let's not forget Pisces. The last but not least, Pisces by a waterfront, by a beach. Great time to go get oysters every year and just sit there and have a marine experience. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious, you know, everybody has read a horoscope or seen a horoscope in a magazine, a newspaper, a website. Where does that come from? What do you do to write it? I don't really understand where it comes from.
You know, it's super mathematical, actually. I mean, it goes way back, you know, to ancient Babylonian, Chaldean culture, but the Greeks really developed the system that we have today. There's a whole art to it. The moon basically changes signs every 2.5 days. So a lot of daily horoscopes are based on where the moon is. There's always something new to talk about. And, you know, if the moon's in Capricorn, you're a Capricorn, it's in your first house. If it's in Aquarius, the sign after yours, it's in your second house. And that means a whole bunch of things. So it's like
Okay.
putting a puzzle together and then using your creativity. Like the sun will change signs every month, Venus every 3 to 5 weeks, or the planets will be in an angle to each other. And it's kind of like they're characters in a movie having a conversation. So you really have to use your imagination. I tap into my imagination and my love of a self-help book and, bring them all together for a little, try to give people uplifting but sound advice every day.
So it sounds like, because I think a lot of people maybe who aren't into astrology, or maybe some who are, think of it as kind of magic or putting in kind of like a psychic element, but it sounds like it's not.
It's actually not. Like anyone can learn it. I mean, you have to have a certain level of intuition and people skills, but you really don't have to be psychic with it, which is what I love.
What do you look at, like when you're referencing, or maybe you don't have to as much anymore? Do you have just this big giant book?
I used to have sheets like
Okay.
of little, I would write up references like second house, money, beauty, and then I'd go through song titles and pop culture references. But now it's just like so fluid
It's
for
in
me.
there.
It's just
Yeah.
like 25 years of doing this, which is insane.
So what do you say to people who are skeptics or who are like, none of this is real? How did you make a career out of this?
You know what? I invite them to just do their chart and try. But for skeptics, I say you should be skeptical because no one has scientifically proven this yet.
Yeah.
But I appreciate astrology the way I appreciate music, There's a reason, sure, we can get into how the beats affect your brain, but it's an experience.
Yeah. It's kind of a bonding experience. I think that's what I'm noticing about Gen Z's obsession with astrology is it's like getting together and having a fun time talking about it. And so that's just kind of like communication and bonding, which like if that's the only thing that comes out of it, like giggling over your signs, that's pretty good.
You giggle a little bit, but you also can go really deep. I think it allows people, and these are my Scorpio planets, I guess, at work, but it allows people to talk about everything from like relationship troubles to trauma without, it kind of creates this little layer where I can blame my Scorpio moon for why I'm obsessed with this dude right now, you know?
Yeah. That's interesting to hear that, because I think that might be what some of the criticism is like, I'm going to blame it on my Scorpio moon instead of maybe it's my fault or, you know?
If you don't go the extra mile, it's not okay, people, to just go, I'm just that way because I'm just going to gossip because I'm a Gemini. No, the correct use of it, if I'm going to put a rule on it, is to say, well, my tendency as a Gemini is to be this way, yet I can transcend that and take a look at myself and evolve.
Yeah. And that was Tali Edut's last meal. Pick up Tali and her sister Ophie's new book, The Astrology Advantage. Use your horoscope for personal or professional success. Thanks to Danny Orlin, co-owner of Cafe Mogador in Manhattan's East Village, and they have a location in Brooklyn. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. This episode was co-produced with Maliha Syed, mixed and mastered by Isaac Kaplan-Wollner, theme music by Prom Queen. Oh, and I created, host, and co-produce Your Last Meal. Make sure and tune in to The Leftovers next Thursday right here on this feed to hear Tali and I debate which is better, New York or Detroit-style pizza. Subscribe to Your Last Meal in the podcast app so you never miss an episode. And if you've been listening for a long time, or even if it's your first time and you got this far to the end credits, which means you probably like the show, please rate and review us. You can do it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and we are now on YouTube. Welcome to 2024, Your Last Meal. You can find me on Instagram at @HelloRachelBell and sign up for my newsletter, rachelbell.substack.com. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal. Okay, are you ready? I think you are.
Let me check in. Let me do an internal check. I'll go with yes.
Okay. All right. Let me get my little notes here. Okay.
Sorry, so they're grinding some spices, I think, out there.
Oh.
Sorry if it's getting a little loud.
I can't hear it, but how authentic.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.